Elon Musk's little kid X doesn't freak when he discovers the family nanny pilfers. He watches, he stands still, and what he does next alters what Elon understood about forgiveness, power, and trust. Elon Musk's Los Angeles house included more than 20 rooms. For X, 5 years old, just a few really counted. The small reading nook under the stairs, the pantry with the wonderful peanut butter, his father's quiet office, off-limits yet interesting, and the upper balcony where the sun danced the plants every morning. He found patterns to be beautiful. He enjoyed quiet. Above all, he delighted in observing people. Not in a nosy manner, simply inquisitive, always seeing. So X gently strolled down the corridor on a Tuesday afternoon barefoot and clutching his preferred sketching pad, stopping at his father's study. That would imprint itself in his mind with subdued weight. Elon's office's door was much like ajar. That was odd all by itself. The study was a type of holy place. X was aware of that too. It smelt like polished wood, books, something metallic like innovation itself. Unless Elon was with him, he wasn't supposed to go in. Rosa was inside nevertheless, and the door was open. Rosa, his nanny, the woman who had read him The Little Prince for the 100th time the night before and combed his hair that morning. Rosa laced his shoes and produced the tastiest grilled cheese known in the universe. She saw him observing, but not seeing. Her back to him, she stood beside the desk. She moved rapidly, almost with nervousness. One hand descended inside a leather box inside the bottom drawer. Her other hand shook just a little as she removed something. Cash folded well. She glanced around briefly, shoved the money into her handbag, and tightly locked everything behind her. She then exited the room, not spotting X at all. He stopped for a full minute following her departure, not because he was terrified, but rather because he was perplexed. He wasn't sure exactly what he had observed, but something about it didn't seem to fit the usual pattern. Elon was working in his garage that evening, adjusting a little drone prototype. X stood close sketching schematics for an armaments-equipped spacecraft. Not turning from the page, Dad inquired. How different is concealing from stealing? Elon stopped his hands on the casing. He turned gradually. That is a fairly particular inquiry. X shrugged while remained fixated on the drawing. Well, Elon said, laying the tool down. Hiding is the concealment of something. Stealing is the act of grabbing something that belongs not to you. However, supposing someone takes something and wants not to harm anyone, what if they are simply terrified? Elon investigated his kid. Anything happened? X shook his head, yet his pencil line slanted. Rosa produced waffles the following morning. X watched quietly from the kitchen counter. She sang quietly to herself while sporting her regular bright apron. But now he observed something odd. Her eyes seemed weary in that manner. Her hands worked fast, as though she were continually running out of time. He accomplished nothing. He merely watched. And later on, when she assumed he was absent, he trailed her to the washing room. She was softly weeping, her face buried in her hands, the washing machine whirling next by. Not interrupting, he stood in the corridor. He merely watched. Rising into Elon's lap with his blanket one evening, he asked, "Dad, can you be good and still do something bad?" Startled by the inquiry, Elon encircled him with his arm. He answered gently, "I believe you can." Sometimes individuals act wrongly for a logical reason that makes sense to them. Still, it harms someone even if they are terrified. Especially in such case, Elon remarked. People who are scared choose odd paths. X nodded and said nothing further, but Elon's curiosity was softly ablaze now. Following X off with his tutor, Elon entered his workplace early the following morning. Though he usually neglected to check the drawer, he did today. Tucked hidden in a black leather box, the cash was maintained for staff gratuities, last-minute necessities, minor crises, he revealed it. Though he didn't count it daily, he knew it was less than it ought to be. And the issue X had raised suddenly had actual, personal relevance rather than only philosophical significance. That day, Elon avoided meeting Rosa. He followed her from a distance. Saw her grin at X, braid his hair before lunch, and fold his superhero pajamas. She behaved not in line with a thief. But now Elon was observing as well, just as his kid was. Elon grabbed the house surveillance files that evening after X fell asleep. Not public video, only internal corridor cameras. He ran back to Tuesday afternoon, and there it was, unambiguously clear-cut. Rosa showing up to the workplace. her face pale, her eyes flickering every few seconds toward the door, the drawer, the box, the money, pallid. Elon saw the video 2 times. Then, without thinking, he closed the screen and tucked his face between his palms as nothing about it made sense. He sat with X in the garden early the next morning. Do individuals deserve a second chance? Elon queries. X looked up with a brow wrinkle. Have you saw the video? He inquired gently. Elon shook his head. I wanted to keep her out of hot contention. X spoke quietly. She's good, Dad. She seemed terrified, but I knew she is. Elon's silence. X brought out a little folded piece from his pocket. Drawing it was what it was. Rosa stood in the kitchen alongside X and a half-in-shadow figure. I'm sorry, a speech bubble over Rosa said. The shadow figure answered, I still trust you. Elon fixated on that for some time. Then he answered, all right, we will discuss it with her jointly. And the next one would transform everything. The study's entrance opened to sunlight pooling over the floor. Elon Musk was seated at his desk, but he was not working this time. Beside him, little and austere, sat X, legs bouncing, arms firmly wrapped across his lap and across from them, frantically wringing her hands. She seemed to have never slept. Her customary warmth in her features seemed strained. Her shoulders usually folded in somewhat, but were straight and squared. There was simply her exposed calm waiting without cosmetics or a disguise. Rosa, Elon started lightheartedly. X told me something. I also witnessed something. Her mouth opened, but no words emerged. I have to ask a question. I also need you to respond sincerely. Just the facts, not yet any justification. She gave one nodding motion once. From my studies, did you grab money? There is a pause, then absolutely. The word came out as just a whisper. X leaned down. Elon paused a beat, not offended, nor leaning forward, just motionless. For what reason? Rosa gasped the breath she had been holding for days. And gradually her voice took on shape. Given that my brother is dying, she replied, and I had no idea who else to approach. She looked at X and her words stumbled. He suffers from an uncommon immune problem. The therapies come at a price. He doesn't fit for complete help. My compensation here is greater than I have ever earned anywhere else. After bills, rent, and his medications, though, it was insufficient. She delved inside her bag, took out still folded, unbroken cash. I intended to go back over it. I promise. Her voice broke. Losing this job would not be anything I wanted. I didn't want to lose him. X turned to gaze up then. Why did you not inform us? Her eyes welled. Because when you're humiliated, seeking assistance is more difficult than theft. The chamber stilled itself. Then, shockingly to everybody, X slid off the chair. He stepped before Rosa, circled the desk, and put his arms around her waist. I'm forgiven, he replied gently. Rosa let out tears. Not theatrical ones, only relief tears, the kind that results from a wall falling down. Elon let out a measured breath. His mentality was entirely pragmatic, logical, consequential. But at that same moment, something else took front stage. Most adults struggle with the decisions his kid had just made for a lifetime. Elon called later in the afternoon. It has nothing to do with burning Rosa. It went to his legal team first, then to a specialist, and then discreetly to his personal financial office. Rosa's brother was moved to a private facility protected entirely by anonymity within 24 hours. Nor publicity, nor narrative, just help. Elon just remarked, "You didn't fail us," as Rosa tried to thank him. You missed us as human beings. X collapsed into bed next to Elon that evening. Soft forms on the ceiling painted by the moonlight. Dad, he inquired. Yes, last week before I saw Rosa take the money. You know what she told me? Elon turned. And what? She stated, sometimes people make odd decisions when they feel like nobody else is watching. Elon quieted himself for a protracted while. Then he answered, and occasionally the appropriate person spots them nonetheless. 2 weeks later, Elon got a letter. It was handwritten and on ordinary paper. The ink smeared a little. Mr. Musk, most of my life I have been striving to be strong enough to guard my sister. She also spent much of her life passing for not needing protection. Not only was what you and your kid done charitable, it was healing. I will not forget it ever. Neither would she. At the bottom was not a name, just a doodle of a little hand clutching a larger one. Elon pinned it inside his study drawer's interior. Though none other would ever see it, he would. Every time he opened the location where something had vanished and had subsequently been recovered whole. A week has elapsed. Rosa stayed in the home working. Not one big alteration had occurred, not even announcements or official talks. But something had changed in the quiet nooks of the Musk house. Not in X nor Rosa, but in Elon. He started rising earlier, lingering longer at the kitchen entrance, just observing. He observed objects he had not seen in years. The little, exquisite, common. Like the way Rosa smiled as she handed X his lunchbox, like that of another lady. Or how X handed her a handkerchief at breakfast when she sneezed without even thinking. Alternatively, upon bidding farewell, Rosa ruffled his hair a bit longer today. It was faint, practically invisible. For Elon, however, it felt as though something in the emotional physics of his life had shifted and gravity had realigned. He returned often to the same memory. X is stepping around the desk, around Rosa with his arms, and saying simply, "I forgive you." That one instant had undone Elon in a level never seen in any botched rocket launch. Not because of what was stated, but rather because it was so simple. X had shown a type of trust that was impossible to create. It was intuitive, pure, something Elon had spent a lifetime forgetting and now maybe seeing once again via his son. That Saturday was just the two of them, X and Elon. Rosa had skipped the day. Father and son sat on the rear terrace beneath the soothing hum of a Los Angeles wind, while Elon insisted on seeing her brother, whose treatment was now fully covered. X was surrounded in paper scraps, colored markers, and an old book about planets. Elon drank coffee, his thoughts drifted, not totally here. Drawing circles in purple and green, Dad X stated. Elon turned to check over. Certainly. Are adults afraid more than children? Elon blinked. Why would you be asking that? X meantime shaded a little figure in a spacesuit. Rosa seemed terrified. You also seem afraid watching the video. But I assumed grown-ups were meant to be fearless. Elon placed his coffee on the table. We are, he said softly. Being brave does not imply, however, without feeling afraid. X turned to see. What then is meant by this? Elon stopped. It implies acting in line with morality, even under fear. The silence was protracted. Then X inquired softly. Even if you are the one causing someone else fear. That brought Elon to a cold stop. Looking at his kid, he understood X was asking questions about Rosa, but not only about Rosa now. He was questioning the world, about power, about hurt, about healing. Elon answered imperfectly as well, but he responded gently. Yes, particularly in light of events. Elon struggled to sleep that evening. Opening his laptop in the study, he started composing something he never had written before. Just something he wanted to get out. A private message not for press, not for publication. Title, Lessons My Son Imparted Upon Me. X asked not, why did she act, he inquiries. Why terrified was she? He avoided discussing justice or security or trust. He chose elegance as he moved across the room. He helped me to realize something. I have spent my life solving issues, winning debates, building businesses, yet the most human thing I have seen in years is a child choose compassion above authority. And I didn't impart that to him either. He gave me lessons. Elon looked at the text for some time. He closed the laptop, stored the paper, and then sat in the dark. Elon showed X around the Tesla design facility early the next morning. X was often buzzing with inquiries. He adored the touchscreens, the battery cells, the carbon fiber smell. But now he was somewhat silent. X looked up as they passed a wall dotted with design notes. Mom, Dad? Definitely. Rosa still did something wrong, right? Elon halted his stroll. Indeed, he remarked sincerely. X scowled. Therefore, why did you not fire her? Elon leaned slightly and fixed him in the eyes. I came to see that individuals act for reasons rather than only what they do. And we miss the motivation behind activities if we just penalize their results. We lost the narrative. X nodded gently. We thus assisted her because she is still good, not only because she was sorry. Elon gave a grin. Precisely. 1 week later, a brown paper-wrapped parcel showed up at the residence, no reference to a return address. Within was a children's book titled The Boy Who Watched Closely. 2 notes appeared on the inner cover, penned in Rose's looping style. 2X, you observed not just what I did. You saw the person I am. How I should thank you is unknown. I will so first start by never forgetting you. And behind that, a more subdued sound meant for Elon. Being invisible seemed to me to be secure. You and your kids saw me, though, and yet allowed me remain. That brought about a transformation of everything. Elon closed the book lightly and headed inside his study. He unlocked the drawer once used for money. It now held something else totally. A folded drawing sketch. A girl and a guy. Said in a little speech bubble, "I forgive you." Elon Musk sat in his office, the morning sun cutting through half-drawn blinds, but his focus was not on the data showing on the display. It wasn't on the forthcoming press cycle for Starlink, the new Model Z test findings, or calls scheduled for the next 6 hours. He fixed his gaze on a little hand-drawn drawing stuck on his desk's corner, the one X had created. Rosa was standing with her head down, a small kid embracing her waist, a speech bubble with 3 words rewriting Elon's weekly screenplay. "I pardons you. For a guy whose existence had been governed by acceleration, speed, pressure, scale, this seemed like something else completely. Stillness." It was also somewhat awkward, since stillness yielded thought, and contemplation has a tendency to pull things back to the surface, things Elon had stored under cover. He opened a drawer he had not touched in months. Inside an ancient notebook, leather-bound, pages fading at the margins. Not a journal. It was more than that. Elon never maintained a consistent one, but this book has events, bits of ideas, quotations, regrets. He turned toward the rear, almost backwards. He halted near a line drawn years ago. "I told myself I was too busy the first time I neglected someone in need of me. I told myself the second time I was late. By the third time, I stopped even mentioning anything at all." Sitting with that, he considered a buddy from college, Nathan, one of the few people who had believed in him before PayPal, before Zippo. Nathan had founded a biotech company when Elon still lived out of a beat-up vehicle and produced pitch decks at Kinko's. It faltered gently. Then, all at once, he had phoned Elon seeking guidance, maybe even assistance. Elon didn't respond, not because he didn't care, but rather that at the time he thought construction came first. Nathan never picked up another call. He left, disappeared out of the startup circles. Years later, Elon found he had died from an undiagnosed illness. Though it didn't make headlines, the news stuck somewhere in Elon's ribcage like a splinter. And now that he saw his 5-year-old kid show compassion without hesitation or fear, that splinter twisted. Elon chose X out of his own robotics class that evening. They drove without windows closed, just enough to allow in the early evening breeze. X asked Daddy, "When you were young, do you recall your best friend?" Elon's fingers clenched on the driving wheel. "Why?" X sighed. "Just curious," Rosa mentioned. "People that are truly friendly were loved initially." Elon nodded leisurely. "Nathan was my friend from finest standing." X gracefully grinned. "Still seeing him?" Elon paused. "No," he answered. "I treated him not as I ought to have. When I could have, I did nothing for him." X quieted down, then inquired gently, "Do you think he forgave you?" Elon stumbled over the question. He opened his lips, shut it, then remarked, "I'm not sure, but you want him to." "I have." X once nodded. "Maybe someone else will enable you to experience it. Like you're helping Rosa to feel pardoned." Elon moved the vehicle over. Parking close to a hilltop, they gazed out over Los Angeles' magnificent skyline. Hex muttered nothing else, then laid his head on the seatbelt. And Elon neglected to attempt to break the stillness, for the first time in a long time. He sat next to it. 2 days later, Elon answered a call. Not a commercial, but a personal one. He found Nathan's younger sister, someone he hadn't spoken to in more than 15 years. "Hi," he said when she responded. "You most likely do not expect this call, but I do think about your brother quite a bit. I wanted you to know, I believe I failed him." There was a lengthy silence. She then murmured gently, "Not just you missed him. Others also neglected to respond. But just now," he swallowed, "you are the only one calling me." He said, "I have no expectations." She said, "I knew. Still, I'm delighted you did it regardless." That evening, Elon arrived home late. X was sleeping on the couch, tucked under a blanket, the TV still gently running. Sitting next to him, Elon gently turned down the volume. On the floor next X's hand, a notepad was laying open. It was a limited list of folks I wish to make safe. 1 is Rosa. 2, Dad. 3, the woman from the market. 4, the lad dropped his tray. Anyone who seems worn out without explaining why. Elon experienced something right in his chest. Something unidentifiable. Not pride, something deeper. Perhaps humility, maybe hope. He took up the journal, closed it carefully, and for the first time in a very long time muttered to the air, "Thank you, Nathan." He turned out better than I did. The afternoon had been over a month ago. Rosa was confronted in the research by Elon Musk and his son X. As it always does, the world had become as calls on profits, foreign conferences, launch plans. Elon Musk had been relentlessly pulled into headlines and out of focus by the media, which swirled about like gravity. Still, something had evolved. Not on his headlines, in him. Elon discovered himself slowing down on purpose, halting in mid-con chat with X to ask a second question, stopping outside the kitchen to listen instead than command, for the first time in years. Turning off his phone at dinner, he was present rather than courteous. Not even to his inner circle, he never spoke it out. But the event that set off everything had burrowed far below. A little child arrived quicker than judgment and captured a lady caught in a silent act of desperation and forgiveness. Elon helped X build a miniature rover one morning while seated next to her at the kitchen table. X asked a question with the same disarming simplicity he always used while they were half done bonding one of the wheels. "Dad, why are people calling you strong?" Elon arched an eyebrows. "That seems like a strange inquiry. Why do you want to know?" X kept playing about with the adhesive. "Since you can construct large objects, robots, vehicles, rockets. With any of it, though, you couldn't make Rosa happy." Elon slumped back. "No," he replied. "I couldn't either." X gazed upward. "And what then is actual power?" Elon gave it some consideration. The agreements, the bargaining, the impact. Then he remarked, "I believe true power is knowing when the suffering of another person comes before your pride." X seems to be happy with it. He nodded, then spoke. And Elon grinned, understanding when to give someone a hug even when they committed a mistake. Right, exactly. Elon attended a conference downtown later that day. He saw someone seated on the curb outside on his way out of the structure. A lady in a delivery uniform wailing into her phone. One broken bike wheel rested on the wall next to her. He went by her and stopped. He then retreated. "Is everything fine?" he inquired. Startled, she looked up and first did not know him. She said softly, "My bike was stolen. That was the only means I could reach my shift. Right now I will be losing the job." Elon faltered. The old song would have contacted security or given her a number to call or noted to offer the firm she worked for a fleet of electric bikes. Today, though, he did something else. He asked her name, sat next to her, phoned one of his team members like that, and purchased her a brand new bike right there. Just a simple fix. No cameras or hoopla. She stared at him wide-eyed as he handed her the receipt and delivery information. "Wait, Elon Musk here is you," he nodding. "Sure, but why?" He offered her a worn-out grin. "Because someone little helped me to define what large actually is." Elon arrived home late once more that evening. X was designing a new Lego brick creation in the living room constructing. "In what way was your meeting?" X questioned without turning to see. "It was good," Elon said, then added, "I ran into someone having a terrible day. I supported them." X raised his eyebrows. "Has your fix come from a rocket?" Elon joked. "No, riding a bike." X nodded in agreement. "Nice. Faster than many might believe are bikes." Elon was sitting next to him. "You know, I believe this entire narrative, that which we have experienced over the last 2 weeks, to be truly yours." X raised his head in a slant. "Why is mine, as you were the first one seeing the events? You were the one who examined the feeling under the action rather than only its performance. You asked not what Rosa took. Why, you asked?" X thought for a second and spoke something Elon would never forget. "People often grow louder, in my opinion, when they want to be seen. The silent ones, though, yearn for belief." Elon silently vowed he would never forget this version of his kid. He gazed at him, the one still tender with the earth, still able to perceive objects his father overlooked. He stored the incident like a master blueprint for something valuable.